Hi, everybody. Joe Chaffee here on this Tuesday. Where I am out in Suffolk County, which is in the eastern half of Long Island, over the last, I would say probably the last 3 or 4 years, maybe even a little bit longer than that, there have been very, very few thunderstorms. And this is not how it used to be. I've been living out here for 30 years. So the last 4 or 5 years, we've really hardly seen any in this area, which is highly unusual. So I was excited about an hour or so ago when I heard thunder like crazy as this warm front that's coming up from the south actually produced a thunderstorm. I think maybe I saw one or two thunderstorms all of last summer, but such as it is. We've got this upper air system and surface low that's moving across northern West Virginia, southern Pennsylvania, and you can see all the bright white cloud tops that are overhead. So we've got some decent moisture here. Also, you can see the dry air that's coming down behind it from Canada into the northern plains, and that's going to be destined for the eastern part of the United States for tomorrow and Thursday. And meanwhile, we have this gale center that's out in the Atlantic moving northeast. Now, I just want to point something out, and this is something to pay attention to when we get into tropical storm season. It plays a role. When you have strong wind shear going on, what happens is that the cloud tops from the thunderstorms get blown away to the northeast, and what's left is an exposed low-level circulation. So as we go into the visible part of the satellite loop, after we pass sunrise, the actual low-level center is somewhere down in here, but all the higher cloud tops have been blown away to the northeast. The thunderstorms are moving up away from that low center. So I wanted to just point this out because I know a few people were kind of really ridiculously speculating on the idea that this could become some kind of subtropical storm this time of year. I think it was just a matter of trying to find something exciting to write about and generate clicks on their respective weather websites or Facebook pages or whatever. The idea is pretty preposterous at this point. This is purely a cold core system that's being kicked away to the northeast. So I just want to lay that out. And this idea of the cloud tops being blown away to the northeast is something that you see when tropical systems are trying to develop and they get into these high wind shear environments that the thunderstorms themselves get blown away. So that's what we're seeing there. And with respect to the radar at the moment, we've got, let me just refresh it for you, and we've got these clusters of heavy rains and some embedded thunderstorms that are moving northeastward. This batch moving through Long Island at the moment, and we've got another batch in southeastern Pennsylvania that's moving northeastward, and that's about to move toward northern New Jersey and the Hudson Valley. So it looks like a fairly showery afternoon and evening until we can get this weather system out of the way. And you can see the profile here in terms of the warm front, cold front scenario. It's in the upper 60s to around 70 south of Washington, D.C., down into Virginia. And it's still in the marine layers taking over again, and we're in the 40s across northern New Jersey and Long Island and Hudson Valley, Connecticut. You've got this warm front trying to push northward, so the atmosphere is responding. There's good lift here, some strong vertical motions, and we're winding up seeing some heavy downpours and some thunderstorms showing up on the radar echoes. So let's show you how this all gets played out today as we move this through. Low pressure moves off the New Jersey coast and out. Now here comes the next weather system, and this is going to be a problem for Friday into Saturday. And for tomorrow, it looks like it will be some severe weather to deal with over parts of Oklahoma and into Kansas. Although the NAM model kind of weakens it a little bit during the day tomorrow, and I think that's because of the fact that it doesn't really have a very deep upper air feature here. It's not the most perfect scenario for severe weather, but it does increase as we go into Thursday. And as we move through the lower and middle Mississippi Valley right through here, a little bit more of a wound up low into Missouri. And high pressure is built down the east coast from southeastern Canada down the eastern seaboard. Now, that low is going to run northeastward into Illinois. And eventually what's going to wind up happening is all the energy is going to get forced south and east as this high holds. We also see that the NAM wants to break out an area of snow on the northern fringe of this for parts of upstate New York and for interior areas of southern New England. I'm telling you right now, if it happens, it's not going to amount to much, certainly not on the southern flank of this. So I'm not really I don't even think it's worth mentioning. And then we get into another round of cold rain and onshore winds for Friday night into at least part of Saturday. It's a lovely spring pattern. It is. And I'm going to go to the GFS model so we can take a look on the wider picture here and see what's going on across the nation, because we've been kind of highlighting the fact that the weather pattern is going to be active. And indeed, as we move through Saturday, we've got a nice little system here that behind the one for the weekend, where low pressure forms in New Mexico and North Texas, and Colorado gets into some snow and rain, and so does parts of Kansas and Nebraska. And then late in the weekend, early next week, I think there could be a substantial severe weather outbreak in eastern Texas and northwestern Louisiana into Arkansas, and particularly moving east from there in eastern parts, the eastern half of Louisiana, right along the Mississippi River through the state of Mississippi and into southern Tennessee, and eventually kind of working its way eastward from there. In the west, we do have these weather systems. That's where they are originating from, obviously. So there's one. You can see there's kind of a parade here of one after another after another. And this is the new GFS, which is out to day 6, which at this point is Monday, April 3rd. I'll switch back to the prior run so we can take it a little further. And this thing for late in the week and early next week across the Gulf states looks to be pretty significant to me. And then it continues as low pressure. Another low is going to try to come up to the north, another high building in southeastern Canada. So it's more doom and gloom. It seems the way the pattern is working is that we have 2 days of dry weather followed by at least 2, if not 3 days of doom and gloom, let's call it, and then 2 days dry, and then 2 to 3 days of doom and gloom, which at least in the doom and gloom period, if we pick up some more rain, it continues to chip away at the drought. And the GFS is very active here right through the 2-week period. It actually has a gale center along about, this is the weekend of April 7th and 8th, if you want to believe it. And then, more activity going on all over the place, including the West. So typical spring, as we said. So let's really fast look at the upper air pattern that's driving all this and try to figure out what's happening. And I'm going to widen out. Springtime is notorious for blocking, and I know that the snow lovers always grab onto that word. Blocking is a phenomenon that occurs all year round. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be snow out of this. In fact, if you look here for the present time, we actually have a bit of a blocking high building into Greenland that is really forcing all these weather systems to go to our south. The problem is that the block then breaks down. There's just still some semblance of higher pressure trying to build up in the North Atlantic, but it's not very strong. In the meantime, when we go through next weekend, we do have this. What I've been kind of pointing out is a split flow in the jet stream pattern, and that's very important because the split flow. You've got this, continually active southern jet. The Pacific jet has been bringing in these weather systems, and you have this Canadian jet that has brought down these intrusions of cold air, but not really truly polar air. The two phases of those jet streams have stayed separate pretty much, so that's really prevented anything from becoming, some kind of huge major storm. What we do have on the model in the longer term, and this is where I pointed out before, where it points out the gale center here, it does really kind of try to amplify this southern feature here as the northern part of the jet also strengthens. So that remains to be seen whether that's something that's real or not. But the bottom line through all of this, in my view, is that you have a lot of energy running around. You have this very strong Pacific jet that continues pretty much unrelenting, sending weather system after weather system across. And at least through the first couple of weeks of April, it appears that there's a cold enough flow out of Canada to just kind of feed into all this, and where we have these stretches where in the Northeast, at least, where we wind up with several days of a cold rain and a raw Northeast wind. I don't see anything that by the way, just to address those of you who want one last hurrah as far as wintertime weather is concerned, I really don't see anything that points to that. I know climate people will say, well, it's happened. Well, it's happened. Yeah, it's happened. Of course it's happened. It has happened in the month of April. There have even been cases, a couple of odd cases going back in the early part of May. But you know what? The setup has to be perfect, and I have to see something in terms of the upper air. I don't see it. So that doesn't mean I might not see it tomorrow or the next day. I'm just not seeing it right with what's in front of me right now. I wouldn't hold my breath on something happening, at least down for coastal areas. Could it happen for interior northern New England? Sure. At this stage of the game, though, they've had so much snow this winter up in a good chunk of the Northeast, and this would be icing on the cake. And you know what? I'm at the point now for myself. I really don't want it. I want it to go away. It's time to sort of move on toward the summertime. And, I need to recharge my batteries because this stuff does take a lot out of you from a forecast standpoint. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Website, meteorologistjoechaffee.com. Ben Scott is Angry Ben on nycweathernow.com. Download my app and subscribe to my forecast, which are just 99 cents a month. The app is free for iPhones and Androids, and the subscription is 99 cents a month for specific forecasts for New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, Hudson Valley, and Eastern Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. We pay attention to Connecticut, and a lot of people don't pay attention to Connecticut. I do. So if you're interested, go ahead and download and click on the link that comes up at the top of this video. And my cat, Kovu, he was on an earlier video that I did this morning. He's asleep right now, so he didn't want to do the second one. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll feel better about this and do one tomorrow. All right, guys, have a great day. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.